Thank you so much for staying with us. Just like you know, we've been keeping tabs on the activities of the opposition People's Democratic Party, and we're giving you up-to-date information as to the change of guard happening across the state. Let's give you what is just coming in here, the politics of Anambra State, especially in the PDP. You remember the Supreme Court judgment we gave the leadership of the party of Ejike Ogwebego the right of leading the party, emerging victorious, defeating Ken Emekai, and it's now time for the party to change guard. But you know, the two factions held a parallel Congress, and you know what the interesting thing is? The two men emerged chairman of the party at the different congresses. Let me show you the first, the Emekai factions Congress held in Anambra State, the capital there. All right. That's the Emekai faction, but if one will see that there is the presence of the national executive of the party, and of course, there you go, some federal lawmakers there, the presence there, and the exercise went on with that Emekai there casting his ballot. And at the end of the day, he emerges the winner and the chairman of the state chairman or the state PDP in Anambra State, of course. Let's go to the other part of town where Mr. Ejike Ogwebego, there you go, that's him there, Mr. Ejike Ogwebego, another faction holding their own Congress. And then at the end of the day, Mr. Ejike Ogwebego, some other party chieftains seated there, emerged as the chairman of the party. So who is the legitimate chairman of the PDP in Anambra State? I guess one issue that we will keep tabs on to see what exactly happens in the coming days. Now, let's move straight to the issues of the day. Let me remind you of what started yesterday with the British Prime Minister David Cameron referring to Nigeria and Afghanistan as fantastically corrupt nations.
Very successful cabinet meeting this morning. We talk about our anti-corruption summit. We've got the Nigerians. We've actually got some leaders of some fantastically corrupt countries coming to Britain. Nigeria and Afghanistan, possibly the two most corrupt countries.
But this particular president is actually not corrupt. Oh, he's trying very hard.
They are coming at their own expense.
I mean, yes. It's going to be slightly, because it's an anti-corruption summit, everything has to be open. So there are no sort of closed-door sessions. It's all in front of the press. It could be quite interesting.
There you see the British Prime Minister David Cameron caught on camera saying all of those things to the Queen of England. But again, today the President, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari, is in London for the anti-corruption discussion, of course, at the expense of the United Kingdom Prime Minister there. But again, what is happening now that the President gave his response at an event in London? My colleague Chikuma Onekusi gives details in this report.
As a prelude to the main summit, over 70 senior government officials, civil society organizations, and members of the business community gather here at the Marlborough House for a conference tagged Tackling Corruption Together.
Mr. President, should Mr. Cameron apologise?
President Muhammadu Buhari joins them as the keynote speaker. He says under the rule of law, he will fight corruption even if his feathers have to be ruffled. He wants the repatriation of corrupt proceeds and calls for international anti-corruption infrastructure to trace and return stolen funds.
This evil practice is manifested in the plundering and stealing of public funds, which are then transferred abroad in secret accounts. I therefore call for the establishment of an international anti-corruption infrastructure that will monitor, trace, and facilitate the return of such assets to their countries of origin.
It turns out to be an interactive session, and many would want to know if the Nigerian president will demand an apology from the British Prime Minister over his sweeping statement about corruption in Nigeria.
No, I am not going to demand any apology from anybody. What I am demanding is the return of assets. I have already mentioned how Britain really led and how disgraceful one of the Nigerian executive was. He has to dress like a woman to leave Britain and leave behind his bank account and fixed assets, which Britain is prepared to hand over to us. This is what I'm asking for. What would I do with apology? I need something tangible.
The president's speech also elicited reactions from some prominent Nigerians at the conference.
I think the president spoke well on the efforts being made by the government to tackle corruption in Nigeria, except that some of us will have wanted him to join issues with the British Prime Minister, Mr. David Cameron. But I think during the question and answer session, he was able to address that the insulting comment by Mr. Cameron yesterday, when the president said it's not really demanding an apology. All he wants is a commitment that the looted wealth of our country, where a house in the United Kingdom, will be returned to Nigeria. And for me, I think that is enough. And I think that is some food for thought for the British government.
It's very important for us to come together in a day like this, because the fight against corruption cannot be done by one person. Nobody has the monopoly of knowledge to fight corruption. So it is very, very necessary that we pull out our house in the same house, and then we fight together.
Speaker after speaker say that endemic corruption can be wiped out. According to them, corruption is man-made, and it is within man's capability to end it. Hence the gathering in London. Chukwuma Onwekusi in London for Channels Television News.
That's my colleague there, Chukwuma Onwekusi from London. Of course, we get more details of what happens in the coming days with the summit on anti-corruption. Well, let's now get reactions from a federal lawmaker and a member of the ruling All Progressives Congress in Nigeria. Senator Babajide Omowarare joins us from Ife in Osun State. Many thanks for coming on talking to us on the program today. The efforts of the APC-led government, the party you belong to, and the kind of comment that we heard from the British Prime Minister, what kind of effect does this have, and how does it portray the British government in the eyes of many Nigerians, especially those of you who are in government?
Thank you very much. My take is very simple. I think the statement by the Prime Minister of UK was, of course, quite undiplomatic. He did not know it was on here. He did not know it was being recorded. And I'm sure he would not have made such remarks. It was impolite. And he generalized that one could easily draw the conclusion that all Nigerians are corrupt, or Nigeria is a corrupt country as it were. But if one listens very well, you'll see that within the context, later on in the conversation, the Queen said the current president is trying hard, and he concurred with her. So apparently he was talking about the previous government. One of the cardinal programs of this government is to fight corruption, and I think this government is trying very hard to fight corruption. I think the issue really is whether he should apologize and whether the word fantastically should have been used. Whether we like it or not, Nigeria was a corrupt country, and which really set us back, which was why this is one of the reasons why this present government is saying that we must fight corruption without distracting us, without ensuring that we don't implement the other policies of government. So I'm of the view that the statement by the Prime Minister was quite impolite, was undiplomatic, but to a large extent, he was referring to the last administration. This administration is out to fight corruption. And even when we analyze the use of the word fantastically corrupt, what we read in the newspapers, which is also read online abroad, is very scary, is gargantuan. The amount of money running into trillions of naira, money kept in septic tanks, money meant for arms that are diverted. Yes, soldiers were tried, were court-martialed, and the money meant for arms and ammunition were shared during the last election. This will not happen in a lot of countries all over the world, not only more democratically advanced countries than Nigeria, but in most countries. So I think probably we may have issues with the word fantastically corrupt, but at the same time, a lot of outrageous revelations have been made, making headlines every day when children of military officers will buy houses worth $1 billion. I don't know what work they've done. I think the president really hit the nail on the head. What matters most now is not even the apology. What matters most is returning the money and the assets stolen, and which is really repatriation of the funds and possible extradition of those who are abroad for them to come and face the music at home.
Okay.
Luckily for us, I think the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015 is going to expedite a lot of. We won't have instances when cases stand and linger for a very long time in court.
Thank you so much, Senator, for talking to us on the program. Senator Babajide Omorare, representing Osun State at the upper chamber of the Nigerian National